Talk about one of Spider-Man's most disturbing villains, Carl King, aka the Thousand. Carl King is one of Peter Parker's childhood bullies. He spent years and years torturing Pete and looks back on those moments really fondly and calls them better days. Because now Carl's main hobby is just sitting around wherever he can find them and observing Peter Parker's life as Spider-Man, the life that Carl King says should have been his. All those years ago when Pete originally got bit, Carl was actually in attendance, and he wasn't big into science. It sure beat the hell out of studying. While we always assumed nobody actually saw the incident happen, Carl actually stood by and happily watched as the radioactive spider bit his favorite victim. And hoping he'd get to see Pete fall extremely sick from this whole incident, Carl followed him around for the next few days, only he was extremely shocked when he saw what happened. The tiny, nerdy kid he always picked on and bullied is now Spider-Man. Carl craved power like that. He only imagined what he could do if he'd been given those gifts. So in his mind, he thought getting bit by a radioactive spider was the only way to go. Carl breaks into the building where Peter got bit originally and finds the spider only to find out that it's been beheaded and it's in no shape to bite him. Now, could he irradiate another spider? Sure, but he has no fucking idea how to do that. He's too stupid to figure anything like that out. So that brought him to the only logical conclusion he had left: ingesting the spider himself. The next few days pass and nothing happens to Carl immediately until one morning he opens his mouth and sees a glowing spider's eyes inside of him. See, that spider was a part of him. His consciousness is now inside of it, and when his mother comes to check on him, instinctively he jumps from one body to the other, begins to eat her from the inside out as his body and mind are literally transformed into thousands of spiders. Taking control of his mother's body, he wondered if he could do it again, so that night when he lays down beside his dad, he finds out the second time is even easier. Ready to make his play on Peter and assume his life and become Spider-Man, he quickly takes over the body of somebody that Pete's working with at the Bugle. He uses poor Miss Patton to get close to him and attack him. Pete breaks out and the two get into a fight. He changes into costume and then gets bit and paralyzed by Carl. Pete wakes up tied to a chair as Carl explains everything that I just told you all. Reveals that every time he eats somebody from the inside out like that, he gets a little bit stronger, so he's been doing it for years and years preparing for this big fight with Spider-Man. Now this enraging Pete, he busts out of his chair and the two begin to fight again. The fight escalates out into the streets. Pete is laying on top of a junction box and is able to trick the Thousand into missing him and punching it, which subsequently electrocutes and fries his hive mind of spiders. While Pete originally thought this for sure would have wiped Carl completely out, it turns out that just one spider survived, and one spider was enough for Carl's entire consciousness to survive in until he could go back and regroup and get more spiders for his hive mind. As he's crawling through the streets trying to recollect himself, an unknowing stranger walks by, stepping on the spider and killing it, having absolutely zero idea that he just killed one of Spider-Man's most disgusting villains.